Hey there! Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training where I take a concept, strategy, practice, thing that we do in autism fitness programming and bring it to you in a meaningful and workable and usable way so that you can better serve your autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes, whether you are in a school, clinic, or other type of environment. And of course, before I get started, definitely please subscribe so that you never miss another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, and share this with somebody for whom this might make a difference. So, in this edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, and of course, if you ever have a subject, a topic, a question that you want me to cover, put that in the comments below. In this edition, we're going to be talking about the purpose and the use of power exercises in our training. Now, if you're already familiar with the Autism Fitness system, those of you who are certified pros are. If you're familiar with the system, then you know our general framework for programming is warm-up or mobility, and then power, and then we focus the majority of our session time on strength. We focus the majority of our session time on strength because those are the exercises that are going to have the greatest possible benefit to overall physical functioning, and they are going to generalize to activities of daily living the best. They are going to give us athletes who are safer in their daily activities, are more capable, are stronger, and have more stamina. Now, when we talk about that middle section, that middle phase, power, why do we use power? So what I want to do is demystify some of the misconceptions potentially about power, what it can actually do for our athletes, what it doesn't do so much, and where it's a little bit more of a gray area. So first of all, power exercises are going to be defined as those that create a significant amount of speed and force. So in the very technical definition of a power-based exercise, it's something where it's an exercise or a movement in which we're trying to create the highest level of force to overcome inertia. Some of the most powerful movements that we see are in the world of gymnastics, the world of track and field, and when we're talking about strength and conditioning training, we're talking about some of the fast or Olympic style barbell lifts, the clean, the snatch, clean and jerk, snatch, full snatch, power clean, etc. All right. So we're not necessarily going to be doing these exercises with the majority of our autism and neurodivergent population. Rather, we're going to be taking aspects of faster, more powerful movement and incorporating them in a way that makes sense for our athletes and, of course, are scalable. The Olympic lifts, one of the reasons that we don't use them is they are so technically demanding that it's probably not going to make sense, again, for the majority of our athletes. And we have to look at the cost-benefit ratio, safety considerations, and where we want to spend our training time. The other part of that is if our athlete does not yet have a significant enough strength base, then there's no reason to incorporate power training. You need strength before you have power. So what do we actually use that's going to make sense? Well, in our autism fitness programming, we focus the majority of our power exercises on the medicine ball throws. And we have 3 that we use in the program. We have our push throws, our overhead throws, and our scoop throws. Now, for lower body power, we hold off on that because we want to develop the strength first. One of the things that's absent in our programming are jumps. Now, jumps are not bad, but caveat, we have to ask, what is the purpose of this? Is the goal just to jump in order to jump? What is the reason behind incorporating that exercise? The reason that we leave it out for most of our athletes is it's not so much the jumping mechanics that are a problem, but the landing mechanics create a safety issue because many of our autism and neurodivergent individuals, if they can produce that force to jump, they land straight-legged, which means that there's not a lot of force dispersion, meaning that the knees and ankles and the hips are going to take the brunt of that force, which really from a safety perspective does not work out all that well. So what do we want in creating power skills for our athletes? Well, we want them to be able to safely and effectively create force while also stabilizing their trunk and low body. And that's where the medicine ball throws do have a great amount of usefulness in our program. So rather than have an exercise that is questionable as far as its safety and implementation, and also the level of skill needed to perform that exercise, what are the prerequisites here in order to implement this particular movement pattern, the medicine ball throws are really, really scalable. In fact, I start a lot of my athletes off with just the push throw as an initial exercise when I'm doing my pack profile assessment. So I have an athlete who is having difficulty push throwing the ball that's from the chest to the chest from 2 or 3 feet away. I can easily modify that exercise and have the athlete throw the ball from just a foot or half a foot, or even if we need to, just pass the ball back and forth so that they get the expectation of the movement pattern down first. And as we progress, not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but as we progress, we can start stepping farther and farther away so that becomes an actual push throw there. So that generation of force through the upper body has some generalization to the real world. If we're thinking about pushing a heavy door open, or we're thinking about throwing a heavy bag of garbage into a trash can, there definitely needs to be some type of power or force production component to that movement pattern. And we're looking at not only what's happening with the upper body, but the trunk stabilizing, the hips stabilizing, the feet rooting into the floor so that that athlete doesn't careen forward when they are doing that push throw. The overhead throw is a little bit different. That's more of a pulling exercise, even though it looks similar to the push throw. The athlete is bringing the ball back behind their head. I have some videos on this here on the channel, and you definitely get this when you are a certified pro and you go into the program to learn all about the exercises and be able to use them in your own programs. But the overhead throw is more of a pulling power exercise. And then for low body power, because we don't want to leave out the low body as far as force generation, we use our scoop throw, which is an introduction into using the hips powerfully while being very safe, because there's zero impact on the floor. So instead of jumping up and down and having to worry about that contact with the ground, with the ankles and knees and hips again, we have something where the legs, the feet are stationary as well. And eventually, for some of our athletes, we take that scoop throw once they become proficient in it, and we turn that into a kettlebell swing, or for those athletes who demonstrate the capability to land and disperse that force, meaning they drop their knees, they drop their hips a little bit so that they're not taking all of that force, then we can start introducing some jumping. But again, that gets away from the main point here. So the power exercises, what they are good for is developing force and stability and that reactive capability as well. For many of our athletes, the ability to react to a medicine ball that is flying towards them, even at a reduced speed, is a skill that needs to be developed. So you have this situation that you can't really mimic or replace anywhere else, where the athlete has to take an action, throwing the ball, and then the athlete has to react to another action, which is the ball being thrown at them. It also, in some cases, creates a great social opportunity, particularly if you're working with 2 or more athletes in a small group or a medium group setting, where you have athletes who are passing the ball back and forth to each other. Now, when I say social opportunity, again, the main focus here is on the exercise itself. But when you have two athletes who can remain focused and throw the ball back and forth with similar degrees of physical capability there, then you can start adding in this great social component to it as well. So the power-based exercises that we're using, we are not looking for maximal force. We are not looking for maximal power. What we're looking for is more sustained power through maybe 2 or 3 sets of anywhere from 6 to at most 10 throws. The other exercise that we use in our power programming is the sandbell slam. We love using the hyperwear sandbells for this particular exercise, and again, I have some other videos that you can see on this particular exercise. But this tends to be an athlete and quite frankly a coach favorite exercise as well, where we have the athlete raise the sandbell overhead. The sandbell is a neoprene disc. It basically looks like a 3-dimensional UFO, and then slams it into a spot marker or a ring directly in front of them. Now, this can be a great full body power exercise, even though the majority of the force is coming from the upper body. But what this also includes is grip strength, coordination, and movement sequencing as well. Does it generalize to a lot of activities of daily living? That's more, again, of a gray area. It can, but it's more about producing this skill of being able to root and maintain stability in the hips, in the trunk, as the upper body is producing this much more forceful activity. So sometimes we have exercises, and the power, the medicine ball throws and the sandbell slam are great examples of these, where there may not be a direct correlation between that movement and an activity of daily living, but it's about developing that physical skill, particularly the ability to stabilize while producing force, that is going to be the greatest benefit of that particular exercise. The power exercises tend to be some of the most preferred. And so we incorporate them because, number one, it's going to maintain some motivation for the athlete. And again, we have that sequencing, that back and forth between producing force in the throw or in the slam itself, and then receiving or being able to react when the medicine ball is coming their way. That's another reason why, when the question comes up, should we just have our athletes throw the ball against a wall? No, you want a partner, even if that partner, and especially when that partner is the coach, because otherwise we're losing that reactive component of the exercise, the actual catching of the ball. The other thing that the catching of the ball does, and this is a little bit more nuanced, is it sets the athlete into position to throw the ball again. So you have that proactive, the push or the overhead throw or the scoop throw, and then you have that reactive component as well. So this is why we incorporate our power-based exercises, and we choose those particular exercises to start with, why we exclude other exercises, particularly if there is a safety risk. So we really have 4 that are our go-tos in our autism fitness programming. And those are the push throws, the overhead throws, the scoop throws, which you can see on the channel. There are more videos about those particular exercises. And of course, the sandbell slams as well. Power in our usage, in our programming, it's mostly about stabilizing while producing that force repeatedly for that 6 to 10 repetitions for that athlete, and of course the reactive and stabilization component as well. So that is where power fits in, what it does, some of the more questionable aspects of where it may or may not generalize. But really, when we're looking at generalization of power exercises, we're really focused on motor planning. Then this particular exercise is automatically going to correlate with this activity or this skill outside of the fitness session. I hope this has been helpful in clarifying some of the reasons why we use our power-based exercises in autism fitness programming. If you have a question about using this in your own programming, or if you have a question about some other strategy or exercise or any concept that we use in autism fitness programming, how it relates to your programming, definitely leave those in the comments below. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. If you're ready to become a certified pro, there's a link down there. You can go and start your coursework right now. And definitely, before you go, don't forget to like, to subscribe so you don't miss any of these, and share this with someone for whom you might think it makes a difference. Thank you for watching.